systems and closest.
Well, you're close to Linux, used to be the bête noire of Microsoft.
Right, but at the same time, just this week, we launched our database product on Linux, which I think is going to be a very valuable thing for people who are looking at their data estate and they want to span both Windows and Linux. Now there's an amazing option for them to do that. To me, open source is also another strategy. In fact, we are biggest contributors. Nobody realizes this, but we are some of the biggest contributors to Linux. We're the biggest contributors to Hadoop. These are all sort of open source projects. We contribute to R, which is a language, which is for statistical analysis and machine learning. And so, in some sense, to me, having an openness and an open platform is not foreign at all to Microsoft.
We say it's not foreign, but in fact, at least I've read one book, including yours, which describes sort of bitter competition within the company, which you somehow seem to have translated now into a greater spirit between people who would have killed each other 5 years ago. Is that not right? I look, you don't only criticize your predecessor, and I respect that. I hate people criticizing me after I've gone. What actually, how is it really working? I mean, how do you solve the arguments when somebody says, hey, we can't let that go. We're going to get screwed by so-and-so and so-and-so.
Look, I mean, I think one of the things that happens when organizations achieve success is this amazing virtuous cycle lock between the idea, the product, or the concept that originally became a hit, the capability that got built around it, and the culture that cultivated that capability, right? So you have a successful product, you have all these three things going round and round with increasing speed, except one day, the product that was novel once stops growing. Like there's no such thing as a perpetual motion machine.
Right.
That's when culture will matter, because you now need new capability that the culture will have to foster, that then helps you come up with the new concept. So one of the challenges of teams is, and companies and leaders, is to be able to recognize when to hit refresh. When is that need to transform? And it's, all of us can sit around and say, wow, change is good, except we know that change is hard. We want everyone else to change and get refreshed, not ourselves. But the real trick is to be able to question that status quo. So when you ask the collaboration question, the more we have a point of view, a worldview of where we can serve our customers better, or some innovation that we are passionate about, and we go about that versus being bound to today's status quo, that to me is perhaps the most important thing that leaders have to achieve.
Yeah, and you do it, and you spend quite a time in the book on empathy, which is actually, it sounds like a word, but the way you describe it, it makes a huge amount of difference. Alan Alda's the comedian's just written a book about empathy. And he says, you know what, when people speak, other people don't listen. They only listen to their own voices. So empathy is a kind of magic key for you, because how did it come about? Was that from the school? Was it your experience in having a child with cerebral palsy, Zaid, to whom you're devoted? What is this? Where does this magic come from in empathy?
One of the things I've come to realize is, empathy is not just this word that's good outside of work. If anything, I think it is central to innovation. Let's think about this for a second. What is our business? Our business is about meeting unmet, unarticulated needs of customers.
Right.
There is no way we are going to be able to do that if we do not have empathy for our customers. And that's not just about listening to them, but you got to really have the sense of what their needs are.
Right.
So to me, I think it's core to business and innovation. And then the question is, how do you develop this sense? You can't just say, I'm going to go to work today and show empathy for my customers. I think it has to be something that you've got to practice in life. And for me, when I look back, the most formative lessons, and it's not like I was born with some innate capability. In fact, if anything, I would say it's every passing year, it's the harsh lessons of life that have taught me how to develop a keener sense of empathy for more and more people around me, so that I can be better as a parent, better as a leader, better as a driver of innovation. That's, I think, where it comes from. And Zain's birth, as you referenced, was clearly one such moment. If you had asked me, even an hour before he was born, both Anu and my wife and I were only children, and he was our first son. I was more about like, okay, what's the nursery going to be? What's going to be our weekends? When is Anu going to go back to her job as an architect? And obviously everything changed that night. And for, I would say, a few years.
I'm fascinated by how you brought technology, which we're going to go into some detail about, to make his life better. Could you just give me a sense of what you did technologically? He's 25 now.
It's 21, yeah.
21 now.
Yeah. There's one particular piece that I write in the book. I think it's after one of his surgeries. I was sitting in the Children's Hospital in Seattle, waiting for him to actually come back from surgery, and I was looking at all these machines around me, and they were all running Windows, and I was thinking, I hope they all are patched and working. That's when it strikes you, the enormity of what you do. In fact, when I look at Microsoft and our presence in the world, we're there in all the critical infrastructure. And obviously that's only increasing, not decreasing. And so to me, I think technology has been very much been core to how Zain has been able to live the life he's been able to live today, and I'm thankful for all of it.
One thing which intrigues me is that you say that only in the United States could you have had the opportunities because you didn't come from the Indian Institute of Technology and other elite schools. How did you get in? How did you get in here?
I'm also surprised.
Would you get in today as an Indian?
Into the US?
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Look, here's...
I mean, we're not going to kick you out, don't worry. I was just thinking, one of your colleagues went back because his green card hadn't arrived and he couldn't wait any longer. His H3 wanted to expire.
Yeah, that's right. He's the founder of Snap.
Because this is what we lose when we kick people out.
Look, first of all, let me say the following, which is, I'm a product of two amazingly unique American things. One is American technology reaching me where I was growing up and letting me even dream the dream, and then the American immigration policy letting me come and live the dream. So I start with the greatest of admirations for our country. And I fundamentally believe that immigration is one of our competitive advantage, where you can attract the people. And even you can take somebody who is mediocre like me and turn them into a better person who participates in the economy. But I think that's definitely something we want to preserve. But not only just for high skill, if I may say so, which is, I think we also get our strength as a country because of our humanity. After all, the United States acts as the hope, the bastion of hope for those who need it the most. And that gives us strength.
So what are we losing by when this man, Baal, went back and started a company which employs 15,000 people and he's worth $1 billion? So we could have done that in the United States.
Look, I mean, that was a case, an example of someone who obviously chose, or because of the H-1B not coming through, he went back to India and started this company that's doing well. By the way, funded by a lot of American venture capitalists. And so in some sense, it is, I think, we should look at that and say, okay, that's great, and it's great for India, and it's great for Indian entrepreneurial class. And now it's happening all over the world, and I think we should be fine with that. We should support that. It creates market, but I do believe American immigration policy should think about two things which give us strength. Talent that we can attract and retain, and that hope that we have given the world, which has given us strength. Both of those, I think, are super important.
Well, never mind how you got in the United States. How did you get to Mars? It's 250 million miles away, and you describe in the book watching yourself walk on the surface of Mars. Come on. How did you do it?
You know, I remember that demo so distinctly. This was HoloLens. That was my first time I was putting on HoloLens. Because HoloLens is our holographic computing device, which we talk about in the book, and it's available today as this mixed reality device. And we had worked with NASA, and the dream of the scientists at NASA was that what if we can take the output of the rover and have it just appear in the offices, in their rooms, so that they can in fact examine the Martian soil. And the HoloLens allows you to do that. So I literally put this on, and there I was seeing Martian soil all around me. And now when I look at mixed reality, the amazing examples, I mean, here's the thing. At Case Western Reserve and Cleveland Clinic, the first year anatomy class is taught using HoloLens. So students in medicine are able to learn because of HoloLens. Ford designs its cars using HoloLens so that people in manufacturing or in engineering as well as design can all collaborate. We have Boeing using HoloLens so that people can train themselves. I can be sitting anywhere, instead of taking a plane offline, I can have the plane right there wherever I am in my office and train. So it's one of those ultimate computing experiences that I think is going to change.
So data visualization you see as helping American business and world business to grow exponentially, am I right?
I mean, I think a combination of these digital technologies, but one of the fundamental things that this mixed reality does, and I talk about that, is that general communication. Think about how the world has been connected because of the internet, because of the messaging apps or email and everything. Now just imagine, it was not just text that flowed, but people could flow. What HoloLens actually allows you to do is that very Star Trek example where you can teleport yourself. You can be wherever you want, anytime you want. And that ultimate application of presence, right? It's not just that, the person is online, the person is here. And that to me can change commerce, can change medicine, can change everything.
Yeah. Okay, let's move from that. That's very exciting about the hospital. But I think I read in your book, a surgeon can be stopped from making a mistake because there's something that's being recorded in the past. If you take data visualization or artificial intelligence or whatever ML you care to say, how can we, let me just put you on the spot, this is what's called a googly in cricket, okay? How can we stop technical giants, digital giants, like Facebook, for instance, taking Russian propaganda, feeding into the American political system, not owning up to it until they're prodded and screamed at? They should have owned up to it during the course of the election. Now you defended, and with great eloquence in your book, standing up with Apple against the government's attempts to find out what happened in California with the terrorists who killed those people. So where do you stand on this when a piece of national security information is kept by Facebook and denied the American public when it's the Russians who are behind it?
First of all, I'm assuming...
You've got this ball takes a bit of time to get you.
I know. Yeah, I think I've been watching the spin.
Okay.
And look, I think that's a question I think Mark should answer. But let me answer the question that I raise, or the issue that I raise. For example, take our own case. We're fighting
Ireland.
The Ireland case, which is the warrant case, which is it's a fundamental issue. Where is the line between our responsibility to protect the privacy of people who store their data with us, whether individuals or institutions, and what is the jurisdictional rights that in this case the United States has on that data? So we picked this case, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. We are looking forward to sort of our day in court, but it's important. That's a very important issue because our obligation for protecting and both securing and the privacy of that data is fundamental to our business and trust. It is also, I mean, I'm not going to deny the government's need to protect its citizens.
Right.
So national security clearly is important. But what are the terms of it? In other words, what's the legal framework? What's the due process?
Okay.
What's the
Let me put
transparency?
you on the spot. This is a case about narcotics, as I
That's
understand.
correct. That is correct.
Okay, all drug dealers are entitled to privacy, I can see that. What about Russian KGB agents? Are they entitled to their privacy?
That's why it's called the case law, right? So you should get the right cases to try. The thing that I look at and say is, like, we can, what I want to do as a CEO and what is expected of people like me as CEOs of companies is to have a set of principles that we use to draw lines. And then move the courts, because we're not we are subject to the laws of the land, and ultimately when we see an overreach, even by our government, we will fight it in the courts. And then we will let the legislative process and the courts define the laws. And one of the other things I will also mention, Harold, is that we cannot have just laws in one country, because the web or the internet, the digital infrastructure, is where information does flow more freely. So we need an equilibrium between the United States and the European Union and even China. Without that, I think we are going to have real issues. We are going to have real fundamental fragmentation, which the world can ill afford. And so these are tough times in that context, but what at least governs my actions is to have a principled approach to this, so that we are doing what is expected of us to engender trust on all constituents.
In a nutshell, this is a fastball. Elon Musk and the other people who are so hostile, excuse me, what do you say to them?
Elon, for example, has taken, I think, a very strong position around what AI can do and the harm AI can do if it runs out of control. And I think it's a worthy discussion for us to have, because artificial intelligence is not just another piece of technology. It can be one of the more fundamental pieces of technology human race has ever created. Having said that, let me just step back a little. Let's first understand and grab on to the opportunity AI gives us. In fact, one of my colleagues, Angela Mills, I ran into her recently, and she was telling me about the application that's changed her life. She uses this app that we built called Seeing AI, that's available on the Apple App Store. Uses our cloud infrastructure and machine learning in the latest of computer vision to give anybody with visual impairment the ability to see. So Angela, who has visual impairment, now can go into a cafeteria, Microsoft cafeteria, see the food, read the menu, read the ingredients, and order with confidence. She can go into a conference room knowing that this is the conference room that she needs to be at. So that means she's able to fully participate in the company because of this AI. We introduced some tools into Word and OneNote called learning tools, which use, again, machine reading and some of the AI techniques to help any kid or anyone with dyslexia to be able to read. So to me, AI can in fact bring more human empowerment, bring more inclusion, so that people can fully participate in our economy and society.
That's the whole aim, is empowerment. I want to say you're very convincing, and Elon Musk and I will meet you in Mars in a couple of years' time. Thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Still an opportunity to ask questions, please. It's tr.com/newsmaker. So if you've accumulated questions during the course of this, feel free to send them to me, and they'll pop up here. First question. Bill Gates said recently, and by the way, I'm sure you love questions that start Bill Gates said recently, that robots that take away human jobs should be taxed. What's your opinion about that?
Quite honestly, the way I come at this entire thing of how should we think about economic growth, the role of technology, the consequences of displacement, I'll give you at least my view on it. I believe, look, let's step back for a second and ask ourselves, is the world growing at the rate it was growing at even as recently as 10 years ago, before even the financial crisis? And the reality is not, which is the world was growing at around 4%. We at our best are growing half that rate. We need economic growth. And economic growth needs new technology and technological breakthrough. In fact, one of the other points I make is that's only going to happen if there's broad spread use of technology across the economy, not narrow consumption and narrow use of it. So if you say an AI or things that are new automation is needed in order to get more productivity, then what about displacement? And it's absolutely another massive issue, because the last thing we need is, let's say, economic growth, but more of an increase in inequity, which is, that's not going to keep our society stable. It is going to create all kinds of upheaval all over. So we need to solve for both economic growth and inequities to actually come down. So the question is, what are we going to do? I would say let's do our first best work around education, starting with the costs of education, but more importantly, relevant education for either the boys and girls in school, whether it's for the displaced worker. I'm very excited about what LinkedIn can do in terms of creating even that feedback loop between the jobs, the skills, the training, so that we can have that constant economic graph that allows us to be in touch with the opportunity. Let us not fall for this lump of labor fallacy, which is that there will, all the jobs that are going to be there in the future have not been created. If anything, let us think through what policies can we have to create new jobs. I'm a big believer that people on people jobs, in a world where there's a lot of abundance of artificial intelligence, what's probably going to be scarce is real human intelligence. And things like empathy and compassion and people on people care, is going to be very key. So I believe let's take a comprehensive view of what we can do to both maintain the human dignity and dignity of work, the wages that support that work, while not denying some new technologies and the surplus and the productivity gains they can. And these are tough, but by the way, it's not something that any one company can go achieve or mandate. These are things that modern liberal democracies will have to debate and come to some cohesive consensus. Without it, I think, yes, you're right, there are a lot of things that can go wrong.
So you want to tax the robots to pay for better education systems? That's what I took away. I realize you didn't say that.